Hello and welcome to another session on machine learning and data science prerequisites. In this prerequisite session we are going to learn about the inheritance in the Python class. So let's go ahead and look at what we are going to learn today. In this session we are going to learn about creating a parent and a child class. We'll establish inheritance in the child class. We'll use something called as a super function and see how we can inherit all the properties and methods of a parent class, and also subsequently we'll learn about how to add various properties to the child class and also how to add new methods into the child class. So this session is going to be very interesting, so let's just go ahead, open our SPIDER IDE and start working on it. Suppose you are working in an organization and you're building this particular application for your organization. It is based on the type of people that you have in the organization and all. So you have employees, you have support staff, you have contractors, and you also have people like clients and all. So they all fall into the common category of something called as a person. So if I have to define a kind of a parent class that would actually be inherited by all these people, because even an employee will have a first name, last name, they will have the age, phone number and other demographics similar to that of a person. So what you can do is that you can simply define a particular parent class, and you can call a subsequent child class to inherit the properties of this parent class. So simply, when I talk about inheritance here in Python, is you have a parent class. In the parent class you are defining certain parameters like first name, last name and all, and the subsequent children can also inherit that particular parent class's properties. So let's go ahead and start looking at one small example. Let me just create a parent class with a method. So I'm going to create a class. This is more of a revision of your class creation. So in case if you have missed my previous session, you can just learn the basic from here and then revisit that previous class session later on. So I'm just gonna call it a person, right? So I'm going to define my init, self, right? I have a first name, I have a last name, I have age, I have phone number. Okay, so here in this, right, so we have self dot first name is nothing but fn that is provided to you. Self dot last name is nothing but the last name that is provided to you. You have self dot age is also the age that is provided, and self dot phone number is nothing but the phone number that is provided to you. Okay, so let me just go ahead and create a small method to validate the phone number, right? I'm just going to how do I define a method in class? We do a definition. Let me call it phno val. So I'm going to inherit the properties of the class that is engulfing this one. So if I go ahead with this, if self dot phone number is equal to say 9999, I'm just going to say print invalid number. I'm going to define this else, right? Print, right? For print I'm going to say valid number. I know this is a very stupid validation, but just for the simplicity and case of your understanding, I've written this. So if I have to call this class, how do I do this? So x is equal to, I'll say person, right? This is my class, so it is expecting a first name, so I'm gonna say test1, and I'm going to say test last, right? And age is say 30, and phone number is say 9999. Now if I call the phone val the method in this class, it will print me that this is an invalid phone number, right? So I have, how do I call the method? So I'll say x dot phone val, right? So if I execute this x dot phone val, what it will do is that it will first of all, the x dot person, the demographics are defined like this, and it is just simply printing the whether the number is valid or not. So if I execute this, let me just go ahead and execute this. So you can see that that particular class has printed as invalid number. So let me just change this number to something else, 9899, and let me go ahead and execute it. So it is printing me as a valid phone number. So I have created a person class. Now I can inherit all these properties of this person class into a subsequent child. Let me call that particular child as an employee, right? So in order to inherit, how would I do that? Let me just show you how to do that. Now, to create a simple child class that will inherit the properties of a parent class, all that you have to do is that you have to pass the parent class as a parameter to the child class. Now we said we'll do something related to an employee. So let's go ahead and create an employee. So I'm going to say class employee bracket open, and now I'll pass the parent class, right? Person. So I'm just passing this class. Now if I do simple pass, that implies that I'm not performing any other operation here. All that I'm doing is that whatever the parent class related properties are there, those properties are to be inherited by the employee. So here when I'm calling this, I can just call this as x.employee, and the x.employee will have the parent class related properties and all, right? So let me just go ahead and execute this. So it has assigned here. What has happened is the employee has inherited the parent class related first name, last name, age and phone number related properties, and it has been printed here. Now this person parent class, it also has a method called phone number validation. So what we can do is that here I can also call this function from the subsequent child class also. So you have the phone val, right? X dot phone val. Now since I gave 9899, it's a valid phone number. So this employee has actually inherited from the parent class person, and so the properties and methods and everything will be inherited. So if I do x dot phone val, then that would be actually, that would be inherited by employee from person, and you can use that method inside the child class, and simply you can print out the value whether it's a valid phone number or not. So let's go ahead and execute this one. So you can see here it has printed as valid. Okay, so in such cases, right, this is a very simple child class scenario, but sometimes what happens is this is not sufficient. The child class inherits all the properties of the parent class, but also it might come under a situation where the child class itself might have an additional functionality for certain validations and certain updates to the values. So let's go ahead and see how do we implement those particular aspects as well. Now here in the child class, right, whenever you define an init function, it no longer inherits the init of the parent class. So simply if you define something called as an init, right, init, this particular init which is there, it will never inherit the init of the parent class. So again you will have to define all the self variables and everything. So let's go ahead and see how we can do that. So for employee, I am going to say you'll have a self, and then you have the first name, last name, age, and you also have the phone number defined. Okay, so this phone number definition and all, right, so what it does is that you are defining a new init, and this init does not inherit the init of the parent class. So to inherit the parent class related init, all you can do is you can do person. This is one way to do it. There are other ways, I'll show you them as well. So you can do here, you can do person, you have init, and you have your self, first name, last name, age, and phone number. So this employee which is there, it will inherit the complete parent classes related init function and its corresponding definition. So this way you can re-establish the inheritance even after you define the init function. So if you define init function, this init function will not inherit directly the parent classes init function anymore, right? So that relationship is disconnected then, and now by adding this you are actually again inheriting the properties of the parent class. This is one way to do it. Okay, so let me just go ahead. So even if I do employee here, right, if I done employee, it is still giving me valid. So let me just change this to 9999. It will just go ahead and print me the invalid function. So it's an invalid number. So this is how you can this is one method of doing it. Suppose you don't want to call the person the parent class's name, you can use something other than that called as super. So I've told you that I will talk to you about super as well. So if you use super, right, what will happen? This super will make sure that from without specifying the parent class's name, what you can do is that you can simply use super, and that super will actually hit the parent class's init function and also all the properties and everything related to that parent class, and it will subsequently establish the inheritance in the child class. So this is another way of doing it. Okay, so here when you're giving super, right, there is one error which I want you to pay attention to. Now here it says that it did a trace back and it's not able to map the self. It is expecting only 4 parameters, but 5 are given. So let's just look at that. Why is it that whenever you're using super, right, you don't use self, you don't need to do that. Okay, so if I just go ahead and execute that, then it will give me the corresponding number. So we have seen two methods here. The first method is using a person, and using a person you can inherit the parent classes function. So when you're using person, you will have a self, first name, last name, age, and phone number. If you're using super function, you just give the first name, last name, age, and phone number. So that way your inheritance is established with the parent class, and when you use the super, all the methods and everything related to the parent class are also inherited. Now let's look at how we can enhance the functionality in the child class apart from what is there in the parent class. So here you have first name, last name, age, and phone number. Subsequently in the child class you can establish another few more input properties as well, and few more input methods as well. So let's look at how we perform that particular operation set. So let's look at another property to be added to the employee class. So here for regular person, first name, last name, age, and phone number are already there. So now I can add another property. I'll say date of joining. So date of joining is more related to the employee and not related to the person. So it's only present in the child class. So for that particular purpose, I will add a date of joining into the init at the child class, and here I need to define that, right? So I'll do a self dot date of joining equal to date of joining, and when I call this employee class, right, so I can say that this particular employee class has a date of joining associated with it. So if I execute this without adding the date of joining, let's see what happens. Let me just go ahead and execute this one. Okay, so you can see that it is expecting an additional variable date of joining which is missing. So we need to add that date of joining as well in the call. So let's go ahead and execute that. So I will say, let's say 20220101. Okay, so this is the date of joining that I have. Okay, so suppose I have an age related validation. So this is how I add a new parameter to the, or new property to the employee class, apart from the ones that we have inherited from the parent class person. So now if I execute this, you can see that it has already picked up those values. Now what it will do, suppose I'll define a function. Okay, I'll define a method inside this class. So even in the child class I can define various methods. So basically age related calculation or date of joining related calculation is usually present in the employee table and not in the person table, right? Because all employees are persons, but not all persons are employees, right? So that is a kind of relationship that we have. So let me just go ahead and show you how a method can be defined inside the child class. So here suppose I have an age validation, and suppose the company has a policy to retire anybody who is over the age of say 50 years. So I'll just go ahead and I'll define that particular function, right? Okay, so here I can say if self dot age greater than or equal to 60, let's call it print real experienced. Okay, because I'm against people who say that somebody of a certain age cannot work. So I'll just call them as real experienced. So otherwise if anybody is less than the age of 60, then I'll call it less real experienced. Okay, so I can define a method inside the employee class. So I have a parent class person. From there I'm inheriting first name, last name, age, phone number. Okay, and now here what I'm doing is that I'm taking that particular person's name. Okay, so here so basically let me just go ahead and add this self dot fname fn plus is real experienced and self dot fn is less real experienced. So let's go ahead. So if I execute this, what will happen? It will just go ahead and assign. Now I can call the ageVal function. To call the ageVal function, all that I have to do is I have to say x dot ageVal, right? So doing this x dot ageVal will actually call the function x dot ageVal, and here it will perform the immediate evaluation, and it will tell me whether that person is real experienced or less real experienced. So let's go ahead and execute this particular code and see what happens. So you can see on the right side it says that test 1 is less real experienced. So if I just change the age to 71, so let's go ahead and see that condition also. Okay, it says that test 1 is real experienced. Okay, so this is how you can create a child class. You can pass on the inheritance of the child class, and if at all if you define an init function inside your child class, how does the inheritance need to be re-established? We have seen that by using simple super, or you can use person also. If you use person, you have to give self here, otherwise you give a simple super here. And how to expand the properties of the class by adding additional parameters, and also we have seen how you can define the additional methods also. Suppose here in the child class, if you have something called as define phone val, if you define a method called as phone val, this phone val in the child class will override the method in the parent class. So it will perform only the operation that is present in the child class. Okay, so please make a note of that. But this is how a simple inheritance will work in Python. Okay, so I hope you had fun learning in this session. So let's catch up again next week with the new topic in Python, and probably around April 15th I'll start loading core machine learning related topics. And I hope you all stay safe till next week. Thank you so much for watching this video, and please do post your comments and questions in the comment section of this particular video. Thank you. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also please click the bell icon to receive notifications about my latest videos.